They said I was heartless. They said I was cursed. They didn't know my husband, Emeka, nearly destroyed me while he was alive. Before this story goes deeper, subscribe now. What you're about to hear will challenge how you judge people, and once you start, you won't see life the same way. I remember the day I first saw Emeka. The sun was warm, and the village was busy with people preparing for the festival. I was just a young girl, full of dreams and hope, helping my mother carry yams to the market. And there he was, Emeka, standing near the big tree by the center of the village. His smile was wide and kind. I felt something I could not explain, a flutter in my chest, like my heart knew him before I did. He came closer and spoke to me. His voice was gentle, soft, like a breeze over the fields. He asked about my family, my dreams, even what I liked to sing at night. I felt shy but happy. He laughed at my jokes, even the small ones, and I laughed too. I remember thinking, maybe this is what love feels like. People in the village noticed us. They said, "Look at Miriam and Emeka. They will marry soon. She is lucky." I blushed every time I heard it, but I believed them. I believed it too. I dreamed of a life full of happiness with him, a home filled with love and laughter. When Emeka asked me to marry him, I felt like I was floating. Our wedding was beautiful. The whole village came. Women sang, drums beat, and I danced in my white dress, holding Emeka's hand. Everyone said we were the perfect couple. I smiled, thinking life could never be better. For a while, it was beautiful. Emeka was sweet, careful, and polite. We laughed, we walked in the fields, we planned a family. People in the village said, "See them, they are made for each other." I believed them. I believed in us. But love can sometimes hide pain. Slowly, things began to change. At first, it was small, sharp words, small jokes at my expense, but I told myself, maybe he is tired, maybe he is stressed. Then it grew. The shouting started. The hitting. The cruel words behind closed doors. I could not tell anyone. The village believed we were perfect, and if I spoke, people would blame me. People would say I failed as a wife. So I stayed silent. I learned to hide my tears. I learned to smile while my heart broke inside. At night, I would sing the old songs I learned as a child, songs about hope and freedom, quietly, where no one could see. Those songs became my only friends. And yet, I never stopped hoping. I wanted love again. I wanted to believe the Emeka I married still existed somewhere. Then the day came when he died. I walked to the funeral ground. The villagers were crying, wailing, sitting on the wooden benches. Their faces were wet with tears. And me. I felt something different. My feet moved softly, almost dancing, and I began to sing. My voice was quiet at first, then grew stronger. Songs of childhood, songs of hope, songs I had once whispered alone at night. The villagers gasped. "Why is she smiling?" a woman whispered. "She is heartless," muttered an old man. They stared, shocked and angry. But they did not know. They did not know the years I had suffered quietly. They could not see the nights I cried alone, the bruises I hid, the fear I carried because of shame and gossip. Today, my songs were not madness. Today, my songs were my voice. My freedom. My survival. The moment I stepped closer to Emeka's casket, I felt the eyes of the villagers burn into me. They were frozen, staring at me as if I had done something impossible. Some whispered to each other, shaking their heads. Some women covered their mouths with their hands. The men murmured, frowning. Even the elders looked shocked. And then I felt it, Emeka's family. They stood at the front, their faces red with anger. His brothers, his father, even his mother. Their eyes were sharp, like arrows. One of his brothers stepped forward and shouted, How dare you smile like this? How dare you sing while Emeka lies here? I stopped for a moment and looked at them. I could see the hurt and disbelief on their faces. You don't know me, I said softly, my voice steady, though my heart raced. You don't know what kind of man your son was behind closed doors. They laughed at me, angry and loud. How dare you speak like that? He was a good man. Everyone loved him. I shook my head. You loved what he showed the world. I lived with what he truly was. Every shout, every humiliation, every bruise, you didn't see it. The nights I cried alone, the fear I carried, he made me live with it. The crowd went silent. At first, some looked at me like I was crazy. Others whispered, shocked. I could feel their judgment, their fear. But I could not stop. I had carried this pain for years. I had been silent for too long. Emeka's mother screamed, pointing at me. You lie. How dare you say these things about my son? I swallowed the lump in my throat and spoke again. I am not lying. I stayed quiet because I was afraid. Afraid of gossip. Afraid of losing respect. Afraid you would blame me for his anger. But I cannot stay silent anymore. He was not the man you thought he was. Not for me. Not behind closed doors. The villagers stared. Some mouths opened in shock. Some children looked away, confused. Some elders whispered, shaking their heads. No one knew what to say. They had all believed in the perfect marriage, the smiling couple at weddings, the polite man who bowed to neighbors. But now, they were seeing another truth. I could feel my voice shake, but I kept going. You don't know him like I know him. The man you respected, he hurt me. He humiliated me. He made me feel small. And I survived because I had to. And today, I sing, not because I am happy he is gone, but because I am free at last. The villagers were silent. Even Emeka's angry family stopped shouting. Their faces were full of confusion, disbelief, and something else, fear. I think they had never imagined that the man they loved so much could do such things. For the first time in years, I felt the weight on my shoulders lift just a little. I had spoken my truth. And though many still stared, angry and shocked, I knew I had done the right thing. My songs, my dancing, they were my voice, my freedom. I had just finished speaking, my voice still trembling from years of pain, when something happened that made my heart stop. A sudden movement in the crowd caught my eyes. A woman was running toward us, her clothes dusty from the ground, her hair wild, and in her arms she held a tiny baby. The crowd fell completely silent. Even the birds seemed to stop chirping. Every eye turned to her. Her face was full of anger, her eyes burning as she shouted, "He cannot be buried. This man, Emeka, cannot be buried like a good man. He has another family." Gasps spread through the villagers like wildfire. I froze, unable to move, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst. Could it be true? I had always suspected, but hearing it now, in front of everyone, it felt like a thunderbolt to the chest. The woman pushed through Emeka's family, standing in front of the casket, holding the baby high. "He promised me a life. He lied to me," she screamed. "I have his child. Do you see him? This is his son." For a moment, everything was chaos. Emeka's brothers shouted, trying to push her away. His mother screamed, "This cannot be true. He loved only us. He was mine." The villagers were frozen, some crying, some staring in shock, some whispering to each other. Even the elders, who always seemed so calm and stern, looked stunned. I took a step forward, trying to hold myself together. I wanted to scream, to cry, to shake the woman, but also, part of me felt relief. Finally, the truth was out. Finally, the mask Emeka had worn for years was shattered. The baby cooed softly, looking around with wide innocent eyes, unaware of the storm around him. The woman's voice cracked as she shouted, "I suffered. He hurt me too, but no one knew. I loved him, but he lied to me like he lied to all of you." The villagers' whispers turned to shouts. Some accused me of lying before, but now, even they could not ignore the evidence standing before them. Emeka's family turned on him, shouting and crying, shaking their heads. They had loved the man who had hidden his true self from everyone. I looked at the baby. My chest tightened. I thought of all the years I had carried his pain in silence, all the nights I had cried alone, all the songs I had sung quietly to survive. And now everyone saw pieces of the man I had known behind closed doors. I began to sing again, softly at first, then louder. Not a song of happiness, but of release. Of truth. Of survival. I sang the songs I had sung when the bruises faded but the memory stayed. Songs of freedom, of hope, of finally standing tall after years of being crushed. The villagers were silent again, stunned. Some were crying, others shaking their heads, and some just staring, trying to comprehend everything. The woman with the baby stopped shouting for a moment, and we looked at each other. Two women, both hurt, both betrayed, both left to survive a man who had promised love but gave only lies. I realized then that the world was watching, and I no longer needed to hide my pain. I had survived him. I had sung through the darkness. And now, maybe, the village would finally understand that a smile could hide years of suffering, and that joy could rise even from the deepest sorrow. Chaos reigned around the casket, but inside me, I felt a strange peace. The truth was out. The mask was gone. And I was free to live, finally free to sing my own songs. The funeral ground had already turned into chaos, and I thought the storm of truth had reached its peak. But then, someone else stepped forward. I froze. Another woman came slowly through the crowd, her eyes downcast, her hands trembling. In her hands, she held a photograph. It was a marriage photograph, Emeka and her, dressed in white, smiling at the camera. My heart skipped a beat. I had suspected there might be others, but seeing proof in her hands, it cut through me like a knife. For a long moment, she stood there, speechless. No one moved. The villagers, Emeka's family, even the elders, all of them stared, mouths slightly open. The air was heavy with shock. Finally, her voice broke the silence. I don't know where to begin, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. Emeka, he asked me to keep this marriage a secret. He said no one should ever know. He said it was for our good. That it would ruin my life if anyone found out. Her voice shook, and she pressed the photograph to her chest. I believed him. I loved him. And I stayed silent. Just like the first wife. I thought he loved me. But he lied. He lied to all of us. The villagers gasped again. Some held their mouths, some covered their eyes. I could see mothers shaking their heads, fathers clutching their walking sticks, and children looking confused, unsure of what all this meant. Emeka's mother fell to her knees, her hands covering her face. She began to sob uncontrollably. My son, how could you do this?" Her voice was a broken whisper. Her tears soaked the ground. The respect she had always demanded from the village crumbled in seconds. His brother stood frozen, his jaw tight. At first, he shook his head in disbelief. No, this cannot be true. He would never, he was mine to love. He would not, his voice trailed off, and I could see the confusion in his eyes. Slowly, the reality began to sink in. I took a step closer to the second woman, feeling the weight of her pain and my own. I know, I said softly, my voice trembling. I lived with him. I survived him. And now, the world can see who he truly was. The lies, the secrets, the pain, all of it. The woman nodded, tears falling freely. I just want the truth to be known. I don't want anyone else to be fooled. The villagers stood frozen, staring at us. Emeka's mother could not stop crying. The brother looked as if his world had been torn apart. And I, standing there, singing softly again, felt the weight of years of suffering begin to lift. In that moment, the truth was no longer hidden. Emeka's lies, his secrets, the pain he caused, all of it lay bare before the village. And for the first time, I realized that the whispers of anger, the glares, the judgment, they no longer mattered. I sang again, softly at first, then louder. Not for Emeka. Not for the villagers. But for me, for the women he had hurt, for the truth that had finally come to light. The songs of survival, of freedom, of release, they filled the quiet chaos around the grave. The villagers, the family, even the elders, they were silent. Finally, they were listening. The funeral ground was still heavy with shock. 2 women had already revealed Emeka's secrets, his lies, his other family, and his hidden marriage. The villagers were silent, unable to speak. Even Emeka's mother was on the ground, sobbing, and his brother's face was pale with disbelief. I thought, perhaps this was the end. But then, another figure appeared from the edge of the crowd. A man I had never seen before. He walked straight toward the casket, holding a piece of paper in his hand. Everyone turned to him. The villagers murmured, whispering questions, eyes wide. He held the paper up for all to see. This man, Emeka, took a loan from me, he shouted. He promised to pay it back, with interest, but he lied. He never paid. He used people's trust and left them to suffer. This agreement is signed. He owes money, and he lied to everyone. I felt my chest tighten. I already knew about his lies, his cruelty, his secrets, but this was another layer of deception. A man respected in the village, who seemed perfect, who smiled at neighbors and bowed to elders, had been cheating, borrowing, and lying right under everyone's nose. The villagers gasped. Some whispered angrily. Some shook their heads. Emeka's mother screamed, "No. My son, he would not do such a thing." Her cries were desperate. His brother clenched his fist, his face twisted with rage and confusion. Some women covered their mouths, unable to believe what they were seeing. I stepped forward, holding back tears. "This is who he truly was," I said softly, my voice steady now. "Not the man you loved in public. The man you respected. The man you trusted. I saw him every day behind closed doors. He lied to me, he hurt me, he humiliated me. And now, the world can see everything." The man holding the agreement stepped closer. He promised honesty, promised respect. He borrowed from me, from others, and left debts behind. People trusted him. And now they will suffer because of his lies. Silence fell again. The villagers, the family, the elders, all of them stared at the papers in the man's hands. Slowly, the truth sank in. The perfect man they thought they knew had been a liar, a cheat, a husband who hid cruelty behind a smile. I began to sing once more, softly at first, then louder. Not with joy this time, but with release. My voice carried over the stunned crowd, over the anger, over the tears. I sang the songs of survival, of freedom, of living after suffering. Songs I had sung alone at night when I thought no one would understand. The villagers finally looked at me differently. Their whispers turned to murmurs of sympathy. Some women wiped tears from their eyes. Some men bowed their heads, ashamed for believing only the surface. Emeka's mother wept openly, shaking her head, realizing that she had been blind to her son's true nature. His brother's fist relaxed, and finally, he looked at me, not with anger, but with respect, though the grief was still heavy. I stepped away from the casket. I was free. Free from the pain, free from the lies, free from the man who had tried to control my life and silence my voice. Today, the village saw the truth. Today, my songs were not madness, they were proof that joy can rise after suffering, that smiles can hide pain, and that a woman's voice can survive even the darkest storms. If this story stayed with you after it ended, subscribe now. Some stories don't just entertain, they teach, warn, and remind us to judge less. And as I walk slowly away from the grave, the sun shining down on my face, I whisper to myself, softly, yet clearly. Never judge anyone without knowing their story. Pain can hide behind the brightest smile. And freedom is worth every tear.